in, welcome. Let's acknowledge the Honorable Roosevelt Scarrett, Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, the Cabinet Secretary, Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, members of the media. Good morning, everyone. As usual, the Prime Minister will provide updates on matters of national importance, and then we will take questions from the members of the media. Please welcome the Honorable Roosevelt Scarrett, Prime Minister.
Morning. Good morning to the ladies and gentlemen from the media, my colleagues who are present, and of course to all those who are following the live broadcast of this press conference. It is yet another opportunity for us to engage the public and to share with you what's happening and to hear from the press on behalf of the people the questions that they may have seeking clarification and information. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to speak directly with you, the people, the members of the media, and of course, those who are following from outside of Dominica. These press conferences are an important part of how we keep the public informed and provide updates on the work your government is doing to advance our national development agenda. First, I would like to report on the meeting I attended, the CELAC EU meeting and the EU Caribbean meeting that was held in Colombia this week. At the meeting, heads of state and government from Latin America, the Caribbean, and the European Union reaffirmed our commitment to democracy, good governance, and the rule of law. We further pledged to uphold the principles of the United Nations Charter, sovereign equality, territorial integrity, and the peaceful settlement of disputes. CELAC's declaration of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace was again endorsed. We recognize the importance of dialogue, cooperation, and maritime security, especially for small island states like ours. We discussed the growing number of conflicts around the world and expressed deep concern over their humanitarian impact. We agreed that diplomacy, dialogue, and respect for international law must guide our actions. On Ukraine, we supported all efforts toward a sustainable ceasefire and just peace based on sovereignty and territorial integrity. On the situation in Gaza, we welcomed the first phase of the comprehensive peace plan and urged all parties to uphold international humanitarian law and allow the safe delivery of aid. I also joined my colleagues in reaffirming support for the people of Haiti and ongoing efforts to restore security and stability. We also repeated our opposition to the economic and financial embargo imposed on the Republic of Cuba. A major focus of our discussions was the need for reform of the international system. We agreed that the United Nations must become more representative, inclusive, and democratic, reflecting the realities of today's world. CELAC countries proposed that the next UN General Secretary should come from our region, and this received strong attention. We also supported reforms to the global financial architecture to make it more just and responsive to the needs of developing nations. I stressed that small island developing states like Dominica need greater access to concessional financing and debt relief based on our vulnerabilities and exposure to climate and economic shocks. We reaffirmed our commitment to a fair, rule-based multilateral trading system under the WTO and welcomed the strengthening of trade and investment ties between Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean. A key outcome for our region was the emphasis on climate resilience and the energy transition. We renewed our collective commitment to the goals of the Paris Agreement. I took the opportunity to highlight Dominica's leadership in building a climate resilient nation and advancing a clean energy agenda through geothermal development. We also discussed regional cooperation to address environmental challenges such as the sargassum, turning them into opportunities for innovation, job creation, and sustainable growth. In all, this meeting was a reaffirmation of our solidarity between Latin America, the Caribbean, and Europe. On the issue of waste management in Dominica, as you may have seen, the government of Dominica officially handed over 4 new garbage trucks to the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation yesterday, Wednesday. This will strengthen the existing fleet and enhance waste collection and management services across the island. These vehicles came in addition to the 2 trucks received in October, bringing the total of 6 new units within just a few months. This investment is part of our broader effort to modernize the corporation's operations and improve efficiency in waste collection across Dominica. This handover delivers on a commitment made in the national budget to confront the challenges in waste management head-on. We recognize that the effective waste collection and disposal are fundamental to public health, to public health and environmental protection, as we kept our word. And we kept our word. In December next month, we shall receive 2 additional garbage trucks, which will take the fleet to a total of 8 for 2025. While some would seek to minimize this, it is a clear demonstration of our resolve to deliver tangible results which improve daily life for our people. While government continues to invest in equipment and infrastructure, we must again stress that the success of our waste management system depends on each and every one of us. Proper garbage disposal is not just the responsibility of the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation. It is a shared duty of all citizens. We must each play our part by disposing of waste properly, reducing littering, and embracing practices such as recycling and composting wherever possible. I also want to inform the nation that Parliament will convene on November 25th, 2025, to give effect to several revenue measures outlined in this year's budget. Of course, further details will be shared in due course. On the issue of democracy and electoral reform, our democracy is built on the participation of our people. The right to vote is one of the most important freedoms we possess, a right that generations before us fought hard to secure and protect. The Registration of Electors Act 2025, a key pillar of electoral reform and modernization, requires all registered voters to confirm their registration with the electoral office during the 12-month period ending October 14, 2026. This confirmation process is vital to maintaining an accurate and transparent voters list, ensuring that every eligible Dominican can freely exercise the right to vote when election time comes. The electoral office has reported that over 4,000 voters have already applied for confirmation of their registration as electors during the first month of the process. I urge every citizen, whether residing here in Dominica or abroad, to take a few moments to confirm your registration. Obviously, those who are residing abroad will have to come into Dominica to get confirmed as required by the law. I urge that you visit the nearest enrollment center in your constituency, follow the simple steps provided, and ensure that your name remains on the voters list. I will be confirming in the next couple of hours. So, yes. Let me turn now to concerns raised in recent weeks regarding aspects of the voter registration and confirmation process, matters which, in accordance with the Constitution, fall wholly and solely within the authority of the Electoral Commission. I hear people making statements, ascribing those statements to the Prime Minister. The Constitution is very clear. The electoral laws are very clear. We have no responsibility in respect to what the commission does. The Constitution is very clear. The Electoral Commission is an independent creature of the Constitution. It is insulated. It's insulated. And so regarding the identification documents required for registration or confirmation, Parliament, through the Registration of Electors Act 2025, provided a clear and affordable alternative for persons without a government-issued ID, such as a passport, driver's license, or social security card. Regulation 8 allows anyone without a government-issued ID seeking to have his or her name entered on the voters' register, that is, to register as a voter, as a first-time person voting, to use an affidavit of identity together with the person's certificate of birth and a passport-sized photograph certified by a justice of the peace to be a true and correct image of that person as an alternative means of identification. These ID requirements were also provided for with respect to applicants for confirmation in SRO number 27 of 2025, issued by the Electoral Commission on July 24, 2025. They were fair, just, and consistent with the objective of electoral reform. However, on October 14, 2025, one day before the confirmation period began, the Commission, in its own deliberate judgment, issued SRO number 39 of 2025, removing the affidavit of identity together with the person's certificate of birth and a certified passport-sized photograph as an acceptable alternative method of identification for confirmation. This decision, many regard to be contrary to the intent of Parliament, has placed many voters, particularly elderly, low-income, and unemployed, at some disadvantage. And though I understand the circumstance and the deep concerns the Commission would have had as to why they would have made such a change, I may want to urge the Commission to revisit its decision and to ensure greater participation. Now, we also have to appreciate maybe where the Commission is coming from, because in the arguments in the public domain, it was said that you needed to have your fingerprinting. There was demand for fingerprinting as part of the confirmation, because there are allegations of dead people voting and people voting for other people, and they wanted to ensure that this process. So we have to hear both sides of this argument. The Registration of Electors Act 2025, like its predecessor, provides for continuous registration of voters. I was therefore deeply disappointed to learn that the Commission has suspended the registration of new voters, citing the need to establish a new technology-enabled registration system. It is important to note that the Commission received the draft bill for the Registration of Electors Act 2025 for review in May 2024, 18 months ago, and provided its feedback in September 2024 as required by the Constitution. The bill was introduced in Parliament in December 2024, passed on March 19, 2025, and came into force on March 25, 2025. Given that the Commission has had a technology-enabled registration system in place since 2017, replaced earlier this year and currently being used for the confirmation process, it is difficult for me to understand how it can now claim to be unable to register new voters until further notice. I do not agree with this until further notice. I believe the Commission has a duty to let us know definitively when it will address the current challenges it's having and when it will resume registration of voters. Another matter of grave concern is a campaign of misinformation and misrepresentation being actively conducted by certain political leaders, most notably the leader of the United Workers' Party, Dr. Thomson Fontaine. In an apparent attempt to confuse voters and discourage participation in the confirmation process, Dr. Fontaine has made a series of false and misleading statements, including claiming that an 80-year-old Dominican by birth, residing in Antigua and Barbuda for decades without a valid passport, driver's license, or social security card, can have his registration confirmed in 10 minutes. This is false and misleading, and Dr. Fontaine knows this. Asserting that the birth certificate has been removed as a preferred means of confirmation, this too is false, and he knows it. Stating that he has written to and met the Electoral Commission regarding confirmation issues I am advised that this claim is untrue, and Dr. Fountain knows that is untrue. Alleging that he possesses confessions from persons who voted multiple times in 2019, yet to date he has not produced a single piece of evidence on this, nor reported these alleged crimes to law enforcement or the electoral office. This too is a baseless and irresponsible statement. And if you are an aspiring leader of a country, and you're a leader of a party, and you have evidence that a criminal act was conducted, multiple criminal acts were conducted, and you have yet to report it to anybody, on October 16, 2025, Dr. Fountain publicly pledged that his party, the Unayokos Party, will provide assistance to, and I quote, those who do not have any of the IDs that are required, that is passport, driver's license, social security cards. The idea is not to leave any single person behind. We need every single vote, and we will do everything possible. That is, the Unayokos Party will do everything possible to ensure that our supporters have the IDs that they require to be able to get the confirmation, end of quote. That's what Dr. Fountain said on October 16, 2025, that his party and himself will facilitate all his supporters, those who do not have IDs, to get the IDs so that they can get confirmed. However, by November 16, 2025, he reversed his position, alleging that the Dominican Labour Party was, and I quote, offering to pay for passports for supporters, calling it, and I quote, naked manipulation, end of quote. And I quote from Dr. Fountain, a violation of the country's laws, end of quote. Such dangerous political flip-flopping only serves to erode public confidence. Public confidence. That's November 6th, sorry. November 6th, he said this. So the first statement was on October 16th, and the second was November 6th. And so such dangerous political flip-flopping only serves to erode public confidence in our democratic institutions. So on one time, he's saying in the Calago territory and other places that he will facilitate all his supporters. And next time, a month later, he's saying that that which the Labour Party is engaged in, the same thing he said he will do, he says it is contrary to the violation of the country's laws. And so, ladies and gentlemen, these dishonest and willfully deceptive statements by opposition leaders are designed to undermine the credibility of our electoral process and discourage citizens from confirming their registration. I therefore call on all political leaders to reject this campaign of disenfranchisement by misinformation. As a matter of fact, I call on all organizations to condemn this practice. Let us all instead work together to uphold the fairness, the transparency, and the integrity of our elections in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Our democracy depends on it, because in Dominica, every voice counts and every vote matters. And the law allows for everyone's voice to be counted. It is left to us as leaders to be responsible, to be honest, and to encourage everyone to exercise his franchise and his democratic and constitutional right to get either registered or confirmed to vote in Dominica's elections. But this campaign by Dr. Fountain, I think, Dr. Fountain and the Truth are strong enemies, if you don't ask me. I think they are at serious odds with each other. The guy doesn't know truth. And it's unfortunate that this is who is parading to be the leader of the country. Similar to what happened in South Sudan, I guess it's trying to happen in Dominica. I will end here and to allow questions from the media. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your comprehensive opening remarks addressing the important issue of electoral reform and the voter confirmation process. At this point, we open the floor for your questions on these and other matters, starting with Curtis Matthew of DBS Radio.
Thank you very much, and good morning, CEO Ira Smith. Good morning, Prime Minister Skerrit, everyone else, including Missy Henderson. Good morning. The Constitution of Dominica gives the Prime Minister the power to call general elections at his discretion. But some in Dominica have said the new election laws passed in Dominica recently, under which the confirmation process is going on, may prevent the Prime Minister from calling an election. Prime Minister, could you discuss that matter? That's my first question. I probably end here and wait for Canada to back this next.
Well, I mean, the Constitution is supreme. And when you take an oath, nothing can fetter the exercise of your functions and duties under the Constitution. So the Parliament cannot pass any law, whether it's an election law or law curtailing the authority of the President or the government, that is contrary to the Constitution. Neither can a resolution be passed in the Parliament that is contrary to the Constitution. That's established globally, where there are written constitutions. And even countries where there are no written constitutions, it can happen. And so they're two distinct matters. The Constitution is very clear that an election can be called in the country at any time by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. And this is what the Constitution says. So that is supreme. So nothing else that Parliament does can fetter that or can constrict that authority or take that authority away from the existing provisions. People may want to say that it will be better, but they cannot say he cannot. They're two different matters. And I don't think I am prepared to allow anything or anybody to cause me to go contrary to my oath. Without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
It's not
for me to determine. I can only go by the Constitution. The Constitution says that any election can be called at any time. And if an election is called tomorrow, or December, or January, or after Carnival, you will go over the existing voters list. The law took that into consideration. So the Parliament recognized that it could not have passed a law that goes so. So in the event that happened, then you use the existing voters list. You understand? And if that happens, maybe what the Parliament could do is to pass a special piece of legislation that requires you to have an ID when you go and vote. And you fix the problem. Matter done. I hope I answered your question.
Prime Minister, you spoke about the issue from the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, that the meeting you attended. But former Prime Minister of Jamaica, P.J. Patterson, is describing the United States drone attacks on vessels in Caribbean waters as fundamentally dangerous and a horrible erosion of regional leaders' commitment to sovereignty in the region. And he's saying that the existing situation has demanded that CARICOM heads cannot remain silent. We see now an ongoing war, if I may put it that way, where the St. Vincent Prime Minister made a comment, and then things going left, right, and center. How you, as maybe one of the eldest one around, intend to cure that situation, because a lot is being said as it relates to that Trinidad situation?
Well, I mean, I don't think that CARICOM has remained silent. CARICOM has in fact issued a communique on this matter, calling for restraint calling for maintaining the region as a zone of peace and calling for dialogue and diplomacy to solve whatever differences we may have between or among ourselves. So CARICOM has been very clear on this. Also, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States issued a statement. From a national standpoint, Dominica has also, on its own, as has been done by other countries within the Caribbean community, reiterated the CARICOM and OECS position, and of course the CELAC position that the region must remain a zone of peace, and that we are calling on all to recognize that, because any breakout in war would have a disastrous impact on the way of life and livelihoods of every single Caribbean country. And that's the last thing we would want. If all of the hurricanes that we have to deal with, and all of the natural disasters we have to deal with, and all of the external shocks we have to deal with, this would spell disaster for us. So we're urging that that restraint is exercised. And as we've said, we're offering ourselves, and in case of Dominica, we've offered ourselves as an intermediary to work with all parties where those parties feel that we can be of any utility. But I don't think CARICOM, I don't think what persons want us to do. We have no authority on people's actions or control of people's actions. We can only urge, and we can can only admonish, and we can only call on parties to recognize that we all have to work together, and we address issues through diplomacy and dialogue.
But the Trinidadian Prime Minister, she's also saying that she has lost confidence in CARICOM.
Well, that's a matter for the the Prime Minister was elected into the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and every Prime Minister and President has the right to speak how they believe that they should speak.
But do you share that view?
Well, it's not a matter of whether I share the view or don't share the view. I don't. If you look at it, I've been Prime Minister for some time. I never engage myself in criticizing governments and what their positions are on matters that for their national interests. I will say I will chastise somebody if on a broader issue, but if somebody has a particular interest in something, whether they're right or wrong, that's a matter for those persons in those countries to determine. Likewise, if we have a position, you can't want to tell us that we should not have a particular position. We cannot be friends of this one because you're not a friend of this one. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not in the business of, when I meet heads of government and things, I express myself to them privately if I have a concern what they may say and may do. But I'm never in the practice of shouting across the Caribbean Sea to see whose voice is clearer, whose voice is louder, and who is the brightest person in the Caribbean. I don't engage in these things, and I never have engaged in grandstanding. And never will I engage in any grandstanding. I respect every country and their right to self-determine and self-govern, and this is where we are. In Dominica's case, we have been very consistent with our opposition to any military action. We oppose the invasion of Iraq, we oppose the invasion of Libya, we oppose the invasion of Syria, we oppose the invasion of Ukraine. We're very consistent. And if any of countries that we have special and differential relationship were to engage in aggression to anybody, we will condemn it. That's a principle position. We don't negotiate in principle. We don't engage in any confrontation with anybody, but we don't engage in negotiating principle. So in my foreign policy as the chief architect of the foreign policy of the country, based on as per the Constitution, we've been very consistent before application of our foreign policy and where we stand. And this is why we don't support sanctions, because sanctions don't do anything but affect those who are vulnerable, those who are powerless. So sometimes the intention of our sanctions can be misplaced. And those expressions are not an attack on any country. It is an expression of a humanitarian, empathetic view that when you have sanctions, a government cannot provide for its people. It is the lady who has 7 children at the home who rely on government services who are going to be affected, not the person with a private jet or the person with several bank accounts all over the world. So it is from this position of humanitarian consideration and empathy that our foreign policy and our national policies are guided. If you look at our national policies, they mirror our foreign policy. This is why whenever there's a disaster anywhere in the world, we give the little from the little that we have. I don't believe in us sitting and receiving from people, that you have to reach out. And this is how we practice things. So we can stay without tea for the night and ensure that somebody can have something to eat who is in a desperate situation. Okay? I hope I answer your question. Your very deep question, a provocative question.
Prime Minister, it's stated that you are standing in solidarity with both Prime Ministers, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves and Philip J. Pierre from St. Lucia, as they head into elections on the 1st and on the 27th of this month. And that is based on what? Can you explain the fact that you're standing in solidarity with these Prime Ministers? That is based on what? And the other question I would like to ask is about a minimum wage that you announced recently would come into effect on the 1st of December 2025. Can you tell us whether that minimum wage is coming into effect and what actually is the minimum wage and who are the people who will benefit from it?
The issue of the St. Vincent, the Unity Labour Party of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the St. Lucia Labour Party of St. Lucia, we have long-standing fraternal relationship with these two political parties. All three political parties, that is to say the Unity Labour Party of St. Vincent and Grenadines, the St. Lucia Labour Party of St. Lucia, and the Dominican Labour Party, were all founded on the same principles of people-centered development, focus on addressing issues of disparity among the various stratas of the society, and ensuring that the barefoot man was able to not only get shoes on his feet, but to have access to education, have access to better housing, have access to health care, and feel part of the prosperity of the respective countries. And so I inherited a political party that had maintained such relationship with the St. Lucia Labour Party and the Unity Labour Party. And I believe that as the current leader of the party, I have a duty and obligation to carry out the principles espoused by the founding fathers and those who have come before me in the leadership of the party. And outside of that, we maintain very personal friendships based on that historical connection with those political parties in St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we stand in solidarity with them at all material times, and we wish them well in these elections that they're now contesting. And we do hope that the voters of those countries will recognize the work that they've done and the promises of continuing the work that they've started and done, and that they will be returned to office. This is the solidarity we express. This is the support we determine. At the end of the day, it is the voters of those countries who will determine who leads them for the next 5 years. And as customary, we will work with whoever is elected. I have worked with dozens of prime ministers and presidents in my time, maybe over 60 or so in my 20 years. And they will all tell you that I maintain good relations with all of them because I respect government. But insofar as political solidarity and political camaraderie and standing with those political parties, we have a special and differential relationship as a Dominican Labour Party with the SLP and with the Unity Labour Party. And we will provide whatever support that we provided, as they do in our time of battle, to support them. This is not a secret. It is well known. It is well established, and we look forward to the victories of those two political parties.
Do you intend to go to St. Vincent or St. Lucia to support these parties on the ground?
I have not made that determination, but I speak to everybody on an ongoing basis. I don't have to tell people what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. From a party standpoint, I never discuss party issues publicly, like this. But they're in our thoughts, they're in our prayers, and we stand in solidarity with them. We have good relations with everybody, and look forward to that. The minimum wage, of course, the ministry concerned will give you some update on that, but I'm hoping that we've put a system in place to have it commence December 1, to be effective December 1, so that people can see the reflection of that in their pay packet for Christmas. We were it was intention of having it on the 1st of October. The private sector asked for some more time. I believe 2 months would have been reasonable in the circumstance. We have to recognize that it is since 2021 that these people have not gotten a raise, and everybody else in the country has gotten a raise. Everybody, whether it's public service or those who are represented by unions in the private sector, they all gotten a raise. And I don't think that the intention of the Parliament was to allow the employees to be at the benevolence or the goodwill or the bad will of the employer. I think if the law wasn't present, and these people could join the unions to get a better pay, they would have gotten a better pay a long time ago. You understand? And I believe that we may need to look at this issue and to see whether we should not scrap this legislation entirely and let these employers be unionized and let the unions negotiate on their behalf. I don't believe it is fair to them that we have to go to Parliament to have this thing done, or SRO to have this thing done, when others get theirs with no SRO. So I think that's something that the government we need to look at and to decide whether we need this legislation to determine the minimum wage. That let the market forces determine the minimum wage and let these people, like everybody else in the country who has a right to be represented by a union, let them be represented by a union. And let them get the union to negotiate them. So I think it's a conversation we need to have. There may be different views, and I respect that. I am not articulating a decision of the government, so I don't want to misunderstand or misrepresent what I'm saying. But I believe that we need to have a conversation as to whether in the second decade of the 21st century, with all of what has happened in the world, Dominica included, whether this legislation is fit for purpose or relevant in the current circumstance. But I'm hoping that, my final point, I'm hoping that the employers can understand this, that to have motivated employees, they take a look at something better. And so if you can take a $10,000 less in dividend and spread it around the employees who are giving you the millions and the hundreds of thousands, for Christ's sake, let us all eat ham together for Christmas.
So it's happening.
Not some.
It's happening.
I'm hoping that everybody sees it must happen. It has to happen. We can't have people getting this little pay that they're getting for. And the intention was to have done it in 2021, and because of COVID, we didn't get it done. So it should have been done in 2021. This should have been another increase. So we have 4 years delayed because of COVID and other extraneous circumstances. You understand? But I believe that we have to watch the working class and the circumstance, the rent, the people, the fact that there have been price variations, you know what I'm saying, that you're paying more to transport somebody from one village to Roseau. I mean, people have school fees to pay in some schools, you know, so we have to look out for these people. And so I believe that we have to, all of us have a duty to maintain the dignity of human beings and the sense of that everybody is being looked after, you know, albeit at different times, but we cannot. Okay, so that's my intention. But I was on the cabinet last week, so this week, but I'm hoping that we're putting systems in place. I announced it since November 3rd. This is November 13. I know I work faster than the government, but for Christ's sake, I mean, it's 10 days.
Prime Minister, I see a lawsuit making its way out as it relates to the international airport. I saw something from the former chief fiscal planner. My question is,
Who is that, please?
Ms. Edwards, Annie Edwards, former chief, yes. My question is, will that in any way, shape or form slow down the progress of work being made on the international airport? Because I see the documents are being asked for and letters are circulating. My next question is, you earlier on spoke about assistance for Jamaica, but I'm not sure I've heard yet what will the government be doing to assist Jamaica as it relates to assistance. And also, it's early days, but people are saying, I remember asking that question last year, and as it relates to the assistance for burials, Christmas is around the corner, and people said that, look, the time it was announced, it came very late. So will the government be looking at that much earlier so people can just get their little goodies, you know, a little earlier? And my next question is an update on the lights at the stadium. What is the update on the lights at the stadium? Thank you.
Yeah, on the issue of the various legal challenges to the international airport, obviously it will slow down the airport. Obviously it will have a negative impact on the airport, because when we should be focusing on pushing the physical work at the airport, we now have to deal with legal issues, look at affidavits, talk to lawyers, talk to state attorneys, go to court. It takes the time of all the senior public officers who are responsible for overseeing the various aspects of the airport. So it's going to slow down. It is wasted money, you know, that you have to expend on this thing, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that these actions are being taken. There's no motivation other than, there's no public interest in what I've read, other than motivated by political consideration. And I think that this airport is not for me, you know. People must not, this is not, I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm the one who is responsible as Prime Minister to advance it. And we should be happy as a country that finally we're getting a project that has been elusive to us for the last 50 plus years. And we're building the airport utilizing the CBI program with all of its uncertainties. And instead we try to fast track it and to ensure that we can get to a level of satisfaction, we're spending time in the country to try to undermine it. And instead of we trying to see how we can position ourselves as citizens and residents of the country to benefit from the opportunities that the airport will create, we fight among ourselves. We fight among ourselves. Why are we fighting among ourselves for a project that everybody has said in the country that is needed? You know, and we can appreciate the kind of dramatic impact it's going to have on the transformation of the economy, the creation of jobs. The revenue is going to generate by bringing more people in to consume the goods and services. You know, the taxi men not only during Creole Festival and Carnival, all of their taxis can be occupied, all the rental cars can be occupied. At a normal day, a normal weekend in the country, that we will have a situation where people can come into Dominica, because we need people in Dominica. And yes, we have the direct flights from North America, from New Jersey and from Miami, but we want we need direct flights from Europe to bring in all of the thousands of English tourists and those from France. And how do we do that? The only way you're going to do that by the international airport. You can only rely on the ferry to bring people from France and Europe for us. It's not going to work. When the sea is rough, boat can't dock, the ferry can't dock. So, and I'm urging young people to recognize that this airport is for them. They're the ones who are going to benefit, and we're not placing any burden on them for this airport. So when people talk about Dominica needs this and Dominica needs that, and when we're trying to do the things that people say Dominica needs, they want to stop me from doing it. There are many things in this country that I could have done, but I've been blocked. People want to be consulted, but consultation is about how we can see how it's not going to happen. Everybody comes with a negative story. Oh, this can't happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You know, we have to move beyond that. How is history going to record our thing? If you have a concern, yes, I would probably people have concern, but the concern must be sincere. It must be to see how we can make things better, how we can advance things, how we can have greater integration, you know, of things, greater participation of things. I understand this thing. But if we're spending all our time, you know, just fighting on things every time we try to do something. Remember, when we tried to do the now Intercontinental Kempinski Hotel, people wrote to international, they wrote to UNESCO. They wrote to UNESCO, they wrote to the World Bank. You understand? During the cable car, they wrote to UNESCO. UNESCO wrote back to us. I tell UNESCO, this is the country. They call it Sovereign Republic of Dominica. You can't speak to us the way you want to speak to us based on somebody who wrote to you. If you have a concern, there's a respectful way that you draw that to our attention. We're not a colony. But if we ourselves are not united in the things that we have said that we need, when we land in Barbados and we land in Antigua and we see all of these jet bridges, we all want these jet bridges. Where you get it? On Douglas Charles or Canefield? Put it at Canefield. Let's put a jet bridge at Canefield. And let's leave it as that, and let's stop the airport and do something else. But it cannot be everything you try to do in the country to benefit the people of the country that we have to find ourselves fighting it down. It's not right. It is not fair to the people who are waiting for opportunity. And a lot of people who do that, people who retired, whose pension is short. But we, the young people in particular, need to stand up against those things. Because people are trying to deny us opportunities, a better future. Because as the current generation of leaders, our duty and obligation is to bequeath the country to the succeeding generations better than how we got it. That's my duty, you know. And that's the duty of every human being. That's the duty of every parent. That you want life to be better for your children than it was for you. You understand? This is why if you look at government policy on education, I know what it is to study at a foreign university without any government support. And I could have said, okay, well, I studied with the government support, and hell with the students who want to go to school, let them go and fetch the money. No, I didn't want any child to go for this thing. And even if people are expressing ingratitude and all kind of negative comments and not showing appreciation to the government and the taxpayers of the country, we still personally for government policy because we do it on a principle basis. I know what it was to walk from PSS to Blenheim on the times when the bus is not available. I don't want my people from Penville to walk from PSS to Penville. No, we provide transportation for them. Free bus fare. A lot of us know what is cutting the pencil in two and tying the piece to your belt so you don't get it lost. Children, they sharpen one pencil, it gets a quarter away, they throw it away, and they have another one. You know, eraser brick. Back in days when eraser brick, you have to hold it and see where you can put it in your bag to use it next time. And parents used to cut an exercise book in two. Kala, you know that? Your mother used to cut an exercise book in two. Cut a pencil in two. Kala, Curtis, you know that? General Jacobs. You know, and we can't forget those things. We have to be reminded of these things and to ensure that we have to continue to be motivated to make life better for current and succeeding generations. But if every time you try to do something that is progressive, that is developmental, that's going to change people's lives, then you have people in dark rooms trying to undermine these things. It's not fair. It's not fair to the people. It's not fair to the country. Okay? With regards to Jamaica, we have been providing support through the Ministry of Health. We have the Minister of Health, and there's some doctors who they left already, so they'll be leaving very soon for Jamaica because they requested medical doctors. We've also provided them with some medical supplies based on the priority list. We also, Dominic has sent some linemen to Jamaica, and the government will also provide some additional support to them And of course, that will be expressed to the government of Jamaica directly and so forth. So we stand in solidarity with them. We're in touch with the government there. They have a monumental task. You know, it reminds us of our own experiences. I can only, I understand what the Prime Minister of Jamaica has to deal with on a daily basis. And our hope and prayer is that the international community will not only deliver relief, which is needed now, but will also help in a dramatic way with recovery. Because that's where the challenge is, it's recovery. When you have to rebuild homes, rebuild bridges, rebuild schools, rebuild hospitals. You know, people have lost their livelihoods, everything they worked for. You have to reinstate their livelihoods, their earnings, you know, and to give people hope. Because somebody who worked for 70 years earning everything and in an hour or two is washed away, blown away. We saw it in Dominica. I mean, I believe I was maybe the only one who felt that Dominica could rebound. I mean, I was just seeing people at the ferry terminal leaving and they're going, and this place is not going to come back, and people are just leaving. Able-bodied men will just pack and go, and I don't blame them, because the situation was terrible in Dominica. It was dramatic. You understand? It is impossible that you could think of anywhere Dominica could have overcome these challenges. And on this score, my caution to us is that we must not take what we have for granted, because in 56 minutes it can be washed away. And we must be grateful to God, and grateful to those who God has placed to assist us too. Don't forget that. But and so this is the issue on climate change, that is having catastrophic impact on our livelihood. You know, and we discussed that at the EU CELAC summit, CARICOM summit. And I was very forceful on this and urged the European Union, notwithstanding the support that Jamaica does far with the aid relief, but they need to be there in Jamaica for the reconstruction. Because the challenge you have when you have these disasters is that you have to run the existing country on one hand and rebuild the country at the same time. And the sheer cost, you know, the sheer cost of that, because you're really running two countries at the same time. The sheer challenges and so on, and this is what we experience there, you know. But we can only understand this. The barrel stuff, it will come. The Minister of Finance has heard you, and I'm hoping that he can bring the paper to cabinet soon on that. But always saying to those with the barrel stuff, bring things that you really need. Do not try to stow away things in the barrel. We will catch you and will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. Bring in food items that you can enjoy a good Christmas and things, and do not bring things in barrel that you know you're going to sell it big money for the people. It's for your domestic consumption, not for your commercial use. Okay? So that's my urging, but we'll certainly put it in place, and I take note of the earlier time, so that I suspect you have some barrels coming in, Carly. No? Or you always asking questions on somebody's behalf. Exactly.
I'm the voice of the people.
The voice of the people. All right, and of course the lights, I understand the containers with all of the fixtures are here. I think 10 or so containers. They're on the way. They're still on the way? So long are you on the way? That way long, Baba. You have to go back to Guadeloupe? Because of what issue? The waves? But you see, come so long, all it is the kicker. Waves? I mean, little boats going to Guadeloupe back and forth there every day. And the saints. No, we have to, the government has to deal with that. This excuses we're using, we go to Guadeloupe and this and that, and then hurricane in Jamaica is going to affect it. And now he's having waves? I don't know. I don't know. Tell me. I just think. Tell me. Actually, tell me. Well, independence just passed. So anyway, find out where this containers are from, because so long I hear this containers on the way, and I thought they were here. That's why I'm saying they're here. I thought they were here. You know. But please find out where these containers are, please. But the schedule, as I understand it, is that everything will be up in January. Okay. and I am hoping that they factor in the delay, both during the Carol Festival and of course this containers, so that they can work night and day. This idea of we going home, people washing their feet and their face at 2:30 in the afternoon and going home and sleep and so on. With lights and so on, you have to work until you're tired, not until 4 o'clock. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Whilst we're on the topic of Jamaica, what are we doing for our students over there at this present moment? Because I mean, we haven't heard much about them right now. And also, what is the update on? We just started the free movement between ourselves and a few other CARICOM countries. Have we seen any significant impact in that regard?
Thank you. As you know, we have put in place a hotline, and we have urged students and citizens of Dominica who might be in distress to reach out to us and to indicate their particular needs, so that we can continue to support them. We have heard so far from 2 students. I've also heard from a Dominican citizen who is resident in Jamaica, and we'll be providing that person and these students with the support that they requested. So we are there. People will tell us what the specific concerns are. If there's any Dominican citizen who is in distress in Jamaica and needs to be transported back to Dominica, we will facilitate the person. We will pay the airline tickets for them and have them transported back to Dominica. So this is a decision of the government. So any Dominican citizen, we shall pay a ticket to come back home, if that will facilitate you being relieved from the stress that you have. And whatever material support that we can provide will certainly facilitate that support. Okay? So we have a full commitment in that. Okay, and so we urge them to make use of the facilitation. If they know any of the ministers or any public officers who they want to reach out to, they can feel free to do that as well. There's a central depository for these things. Okay? On the free movement, I think the advent of the free movement among Jamaica, Belize, St. Vincent and Grenadines and Dominica is a historic. I think that is what the founders of our integration movement envisaged. This is why the Treaty of Chaguaramas and the revised version captured the move towards integration with the free movement of people. And it took us some time. I've been advocating for this publicly and otherwise for many years. And I'm happy that we've decided that 4 of us will move ahead, and the others will join us as we go along. And so we look forward to others joining us. I don't believe that you will see a dramatic movement from one country to the other. With the categories that we approved among ourselves within CARICOM, we've not seen a dramatic move. I think what it does is that it gives people the assurance that you can move freely and to live or to work or on vacation, without having any hindrances. And that if you move there to work and to live, that there are certain basic things that you will benefit from. So basic primary health care, basic education, etc., etc. On mark you, my friend, all of the things we've been practicing in Dominica, there is no foreign national who is denied entry into our secondary schools or access to health care, the same benefits that we have as citizens of Dominica, because we're all people. And my view is we have so many Dominicans in different parts of the world. Why should we treat people who come from outside Dominica differently? Because I'm sure we like our citizens who are in other countries to be treated with respect and with dignity. And that's why we have to do the same as human beings. And so we're simply formalizing this. And the system is in place. And this is something that we have to look at. From a broader perspective, I had made a suggestion in Parliament that we're going to look at the removal of visas for entry into Dominica, or in some cases it should be visa on arrival. I think it's something that I'm going to move with before the end of the year, and to let people come. We have an advanced passenger system. We will know who we have concern with. The intelligence infrastructure in the Caribbean is very efficient and effective. They'll tell you, alert you who you should be concerned of. But we should stop treating everybody as a potential criminal and have this prevention rather than facilitation. And I think we need to look at those things. So just bring a guillotine on this and forget about all this consultation and just put a guillotine on this and move ahead with this thing. If down the way it doesn't work, then you review. Nothing wrong with reviewing and reversing. But let's try it out. You understand? Let's try it out. And this is what we looking at. Yes?
Hospital by the Mario Holder Foundation. What is your view of the maybe need for us in Dominica to move towards medical tourism as our building income? What's your view on this?
I mean, this is one of the whole ideas behind the construction of the hospital and the number of services that we're now providing at the hospital, the expansion of surgical and other clinical services at the hospital, the sheer number of doctors that we have. People don't appreciate the number of doctors that we have at the service paid for by the treasury. A significant number. When I heard the minister or somebody mention we had about 13 or 15 doctors assigned to the accident and emergency department. There's a significant number that we came from 2 and 1 and half a doctor at the A&E. It's a significant number. You understand? So we have come a long way. Obviously, there's some issues there, but with the setting up of the surgical facilities at the hospital is a brilliant move. It's a dramatic, positive step forward. It is going to enhance the delivery of healthcare services. It's going to enhance the ability of the doctors' means of ensuring somebody stays alive by cutting the time that person gets from the accident department to the theater. I mean, it's a huge positive occurring, and of course we thank the Mario Holder Foundation for it. But in terms of medical tourism, we have the facilities, the eye care center. So we have what it takes. I think it's a matter for us to have a system in place and a structure in place to properly regulate and manage it and to promote it. And I think this is where DHTA and all those persons who have the properties, the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of so I really believe that should be led by the private sector, and the government can facilitate it. But I believe that should be taken over by the private sector, and to see how they can utilize the state services to advance medical tourism. You understand? Because these are more private sector matters rather than public sector. But we have in place the foundation, and of course, here you go with the international airport, and this further will enhance the ability of people to get in and get out in a safer manner. Because Douglas Charles has its own limitations, and so you guarantee that planes are more likely to land at the new airport, international airport, than Douglas Charles, and all of these things come into place. Yes, sir.
I was speaking about safety here.
Yeah.
Is government contemplating legislation for mandatory evacuation? Because we know so often when you tell people in low-lying areas to leave, they do not leave, then the lives and property, they give the police stress. Maybe the time has come for government to look at that. Is that something that your government will be looking at in terms of legislation for mandatory evacuation?
This has been raised many times. Even with the drafting of the legislation, the enhanced legislation on disaster management and preparedness management, this has been discussed. Obviously, you're talking about people's freedoms and people's right. So you have to be careful with this. I believe that there must be a warning system in place, like the United States, where after a period of cut off time, then you're on your own. You understand? And so whatever happens to you, then you will suffer the consequences. So in the United States, in some states, they have a warning system. So the emergency people go to you, sir, you have to move, you have to evacuate. They come back to you later, sir, you have to evacuate. And at some point, when they leave, don't call them. You won't hear from them because they have now decided, you have now decided to exercise your right to remain where you own your property. The state can't remove your property because you have all those issues of your right to property and the right to enjoy your property under any circumstance. So you have to be very careful with how you intrude on somebody's rights and you affect somebody's rights. So all of these issues that you want us to take in consideration in seeking to ensure that people are safe. You understand? But I believe that we may want to adopt the United States system, I had suggested when we were having the consultations back then, so that you have a warning threshold, warning system. After a while, that's it. So if your house blown away, washed away, that's your responsibility. And if you are in distress, if we can come to look for you, we come to look for you. We can. Nobody's going to risk their life to come to you because they ask you to move. So I think sometimes I don't think the Parliament can legislate everything. I think people have to take responsibility for some aspects of their life, and so Parliament has to be careful that it doesn't overreach and take responsibility of how people breathe and how people eat and what people eat, drink, and how people sleep and when they go to bed and these things. You have to be very careful if how far you go insofar as legislating people's behaviors and actions.
Yeah, I'm told that will be the last three. How many medical practitioners are being sent to Jamaica? I think some announcement came in a while ago that we are sending some people to Jamaica. So how many? And speaking about doctors, an announcement was made that doctors at the Dominica China Friendship Hospital would receive some salary increases as a form of incentive to keep them around at the hospital. Is that already in place or is that to come? The other question is about the Citizenship by Investment program. How well has the program performed in the last year compared to 2024? And Prime Minister, about the late Julius Timothy, who is receiving, I'm told, an official funeral on the weekend. State? Official. How well will he be best remembered as from a government standpoint? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My understanding is so far there are 2 doctors who will be sent to Jamaica. They'll leave on November 18th. And we're prepared to increase this based on the need of the Jamaican government on this. And so we're prepared to do this. So that's one. The 2, the government approved, the cabinet approved a comprehensive set of incentives and salary changes and structures for medical practitioners in Dominica. And we believe that based on independent assessment, they were dramatic on a positive side. My understanding is that some doctors are raising concern in one particular incentive, that they of the view that everyone should receive it. And so I know that there are discussions with those doctors, with the hospital authority to better understand their objection and concern and to see what kind of actions can be taken if there's a case, the legitimate case from their end. Now, what we sought to do, Curtis, as you know, doctors are allowed to, they are fully employed by the state, but they are allowed to have private practice. Now, as it is, the law doesn't allow it, because the law doesn't allow a public officer to go and work without their approval. So, in the Aegis chambers, because the limited number of people that we have in the judiciary, not necessarily the administrative arm of the legal affairs, the magistrates and the state attorneys and the DPP and others, that we have provided them with what is called an inducement allowance. And that allowance is on top of the law of private practice. And this was an effort towards offering them a better pay package. You know, so they enjoy that because, as you know, they are not allowed to work in the private sector as lawyers or attorneys. And so you have a situation where there are some doctors at the hospital who are full-time employees of the state and who are not engaged in private practice. And so who would be worse off than those who are allowed to work in private practice and still hold a full-time job with the state. And so the idea was, and because that's part of the challenge you have in the hospital. Some people blame the Ministry of Health or the government. But what you have is that because you have consultants and everybody has private practice, sometimes you don't have people there on a full-time basis. So you don't have, while they employ full-time with the state, they are not full-time available to the state. You understand? And so you have those gaps of senior management present on the hospital compound at any given time. And so the idea was to recognize that while we increase the salaries for everybody and we increase the allowances for everybody, it was to introduce a separate allowance that you would give to only those who choose not to have a private practice. You understand? But the doctors who have private practice, who are in the majority, as I understand it, are saying, but I will do well with that extra money. You see what I'm saying? You will do well with extra money, and why you discriminate against that? I don't think it's a discrimination. I think it's a recognition of the differential circumstance of those who are allowed to enjoy their private practice and be unfettered with that private practice, and to ensure that those who are of the same qualifications as you, the same abilities of you, who choose not to go into private practice, that they can get that allowance, so that they don't feel that their peers can get a new motor car and they're using a 2002 car and subject to all kinds of environmental levies. You know what I'm saying? That they can buy a brand new car too. You see what I'm saying? And they can feel part of the Dominica dream. You understand, themselves, and they can buy some land and build a house as medical doctors. So this is what we're trying to do, is to recognize it. So I've asked the senior public officers to meet with these doctors to understand better their arguments. I'm only telling you what has been reported to me, so I have not met with them myself to hear from them, but it's my understanding of what it is. So I've asked that we meet with them. It's only fair that we meet with them and to hear what they're saying and to see what they're recommending. But I think that fairness has to reign and equity has to reign. And if it's an allowance, if you're allowed to, and you're allowed to use the hospital too, at no charge to you, really. You know, at no charge to you. So I think we have to be fair and so on in the country. Not to watch who gets in what and who, I don't get that and I should get this because, you know, Mr. just come and Mr. there and Mr. getting this and I therefore. Let's not covet our neighbors' gifts. Pretty lot for our own and so on. So what we'll meet with them, and a report will be sent back to the minister and to me, and then we will, if there's merit in what they're saying, then we will look at it. And if there's no merit, I think we'll be fair, transparent enough to tell them, my brothers, come on, man. You can't threaten to protest for something that you're not entitled to, legally. Okay, so but we'll discuss with them and find out what is yeah. But you don't use the number to this. Let me tell you something, man. You like food dance, boy. Let me tell you something. You want to call him and tell you something, but something just happened and you know it already. I have to be ready prepared to answer questions of you guys, Otherwise, I'll tell you, I'll check in on it. I'll look into it. The CBI, there's been, it's going okay so far. From the government standpoint, that's to say the public investment projects and so forth, or from the see a 7.8% increase in receipts from the 2020 to 2024. 2023, 2024, it was $622.1 million, and in 2024-2025 is $670.5 million. So all of these projects all these funds go towards the international airport, the Marina project, paying for the National Employment Program, those persons studying overseas, the 65 and over, and a number of various interventions that we do from the Public Investment Program. Yes, Mr. Julius Timothy will be laid to rest, an official funeral on Saturday, this Saturday. Obviously, Mr. Timothy made a great contribution to Dominica in many areas. And as I said before when I spoke about this, I have the greatest respect for everyone who stayed in Dominica for all of his years and who labored in Dominica's vineyard in many areas, creating jobs for people and playing their part in nation building. There are many people who had opportunities to migrate and decided to stay in Dominica to work. And I have the greatest appreciation and admiration for all of those persons who have done so. And so Julius Smith was one of them. And he made his contribution. It was for him about Dominica. As you know, he left the Negros Party and came and joined the Labour Party in government, worked for us for some time. And so I believe we will remember him as a true patriot. Someone who was genuinely concerned about the welfare and well-being of Dominica. And so that I hope is the way that he will be remembered. And he was prepared to work across political lines to ensure that his contribution can continue to be made wherever and whenever it was needed. Okay, I thank you so much for your questions. Difficult as they were, I hope I answered them correctly and to your satisfaction. I want to thank us, and of course, we look forward to working with you, and all of us work together towards the country's development. The world is more difficult now than it was 10 years ago, and therefore it requires us as a nation to work even closer together in a more constructive and positive way, and let us use our talent and our skills and our knowledge for the greater good of the country. And this government is prepared to engage and work with every and anybody who is prepared to put Dominica first. And so reach out to us, reach out to me, and let's work together, and so we can benefit from your knowledge, from your experience, as we navigate some of the difficult times in this world that's created and imposed upon us. But we have to find our way, and we continue to find our way. And there are a number of crucial projects that are taking place, from the geothermal to the marina to the cable car to the road infrastructure improvement to the international airport, continue to build homes, continue to invest in small businesses. We continue to educate our people at all levels. We continue to take care of the less or the vulnerable among us. We continue to invest in agriculture. We continue to invest in tourism. We continue to, every day we're improving the delivery of healthcare services in Dominica, ensuring that we train people, more nurses, more doctors, more support staff, improving on the equipment. And I said at the launch of the commission of the surgical facility at the hospital, I'm hearing dramatically less complaints about the hospital today than 8 months ago. And this tells you that when people complain, we don't get vexed with them. We take note and we go and just see how we can fix the complaint of the people. And that's what we have been doing, led by the Minister for Health, supported by myself and the rest of us. That's what we do. People complain, we respect people's views, people have experiences. Sometimes they're not accurate, but we take note of them and we go and find out the problem. There was a garbage problem, we did not sit on our heads. We put a system in place. This is why we have the garbage trucks today, and so forth, and in improving the capacity of the Solid Waste Corporation. We have deployed additional human resources to the Solid Waste Corporation to addressing the issue. There's a gun issue in the country. People are concerned. We not only rely on ourselves as the police, but we reach out to our brothers and sisters in the region for the RSS system and to come in to assist us in eradicating the presence of illegal firearms and to give people the peace of mind that they need. students complain at school, we sit down with them, we sit down with the teachers, we hear their concern, and we try to solve it. And that's what we do. And that's a government that understands people, the power of people, understands that it is there at the service of the people, and that's what we've been doing. And I think what we need more than ever now in the country is for all of us to recognize the need for us to work together if we want things to be way better than they are now. And if we want where we want Dominica to be, and the question is, what is going to be my contribution? And recognizing that this party is going to be in office until Thy kingdom come, the best thing to do, the only thing to do is to join us. Join us and work with us. We may not always agree on everything. Anybody who is prepared to come, you can come to do two things. You can come to contribute, but you could also come to learn. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to note that I heard the Prime Minister say that he will be confirming today. I think that's a great press opportunity, so keep that in mind. It's what time, Prime Minister? Yes, so it's at the electoral office, I'm told. So that should be an easy walk or drive over. Thank you everyone for coming. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care.